Welcome to the Progtalks by the Progspace. Welcome to the Progtalks, an interview series by the Progspace where we will be talking to musicians in all corners of the progressive music scene.
Welcome back to another episode of the Progtalks. I'm your host Dario, and as always, before we jump into today's topic and welcome today's guest, please like and subscribe the Progspace everywhere, and don't forget to get us a cup of coffee or tea. That helps us out a lot. And today, I thought I'd introduce today's band with a little, kind of explaining that there's around three types of bands that I interview mostly here on the Progtalks. That's either an old band or a band that's been around for a bit that I've been very familiar with. And the second type would be that's a very old, very revered band in the scene that I'm not that familiar with, but that's also mostly very easy because they're known in the scene, so it's kind of easy for me to know a bit about them, even though I haven't been an avid fan of them. But today it is the third kind of band, and that's a completely new band to me. I'm happy to welcome Alex from Delvoid.
Thank you.
You are calling from Norway, is that correct?
Yeah, from Norway, from my tiny student apartment in Oslo.
Nice. Yeah, it's been too long since I've been to Oslo. Last time was the DVDs are back there, so I can't pull it out now. But I think it might have been 2015 or 16 for Leprous live DVD recording at the Rockefeller.
Cool. Leprous are good.
I just said that Delvoid is a new band for me, and I was very surprised when I picked up the promo from my emails with one of the singles of the new album. There's a third album, Swarmlife, about to be released, and you already have two singles out from the album. Doing a little research, I found that you already have two previous albums, but they date back a bit. The immediate previous album was in 2015, Serene, and the debut album Delve was released in 2011. So that it's been a while between albums, right? And the first thing that it was also in the promo text, and checking out Serene this afternoon, it was very obvious that the statement is very true, that on the new album it's more band, less orchestra. Because, Serene is as the title implies, this very calm for long passages, and the 18-minute title track is very, very post-rocky crescendo and stuff. And on the new one you're really, really rocking out. So what happened between Serene and Swarmlife now?
I would say the biggest thing is probably the bassist switch. So we had a bassist called Magnus Falkenberg who worked with us on Serene. And once we got told of, he was also called Magnus Andersen, who plays another great band called Sorgen. When he started playing with us, we just kind of naturally went in a different direction, I think. And also, I think probably we all kind of wanted to just shake things up a bit. Like some of the material on Swarmlife is stuff which didn't feel like it was right on Serene, because it was too, maybe, I want to say aggressive, maybe. We felt like Swarmlife was going to be a bit more of a sort of how we imagine ourselves sounding in a rehearsal room, if we can say it like that. Yeah.
Yeah, it's very interesting with bands or that have a sound that is more calm, like on Serene. That in the live environment they're always a lot heavier, right? And I imagine that's even more true for a band rehearsal room, as everything is the space is tighter, right. And
live is definitely. I mean, I've always thought of us as a live band more than a studio band, to be honest. Mostly because I enjoy concerts a lot more than I enjoy just like kneading over the same material for hours on end in a studio.
You just introduced the new bass player. Maybe you can introduce the whole band and also your own role in the band.
So I can start with Magnus Andersen, who plays the bass, and he does a lot of the studio work as well. He's a just say like a radio technician. Is that a correct term? Could you say that? Audio engineer for radio.
Yeah, I would say so. I'm also not I'm not an English native speaker.
Right. So he does a lot of the pre-production of Swarmlife. And then we have Espen Granseth on drums, who also plays the vibraphone. And he's currently now touring with this other getup he's got, which is like it's like a postmodern folk thing, like a world folk music, and they play mostly for kids. So it's like a comedic act they do, which is really good.
Interesting.
Yeah, he's doing well with that. And then we have Erik Johan Hallbakken on guitar, who also works in he designs stages and stuff for live concerts. So and then Alex, I sing and I play a bit of second guitar, and then I also worked out some of the synths at home here as well for the album. Some other noisy stuff. Yeah.
So you're a 4-piece, and there was a lot of orchestration on Serene.
Yeah.
How did you reproduce that live? Do you have a backing track?
Well, mostly the songs which are rarely orchestral, we just didn't play in the same way. Well, at least not in the same way. So we kind of have, I mean, we make an album and then we have a live show, a live set sort of, and we try to make that something unique and something more interesting. I don't know, it's a different situation when you're out having drinks and going to see a concert when compared to being at home and, having time to listen to a full album. So you get to do different things in those different situations, and we try to sort of use that to our advantage.
Yeah, it's a huge difference. I had the privilege, and it was so amazing. Last weekend, I was able to go to Eindhoven to the Prognosis Festival with Catatonia and Lapris, and also Enslaved playing, for example, and The Ocean. Amazing lineup, and listening to live music with friends is just a different thing entirely, feeling wise than sitting at home with your earphones, maybe.
Absolutely. I mean, you can listen to completely different types of music live, which, I would never, I don't want to say never, but which I probably wouldn't end up putting on at home. Like I went a few years back, I saw Slayer at Rock am Ring in Germany, which is a band which for me just wouldn't make sense to put down and relax to at home. But in a live situation, it's like the best thing ever, right?
That's interesting. I would say Slayer, the Slayer concert I've been to, maybe it was because it was in a closed venue and with shitty acoustics or whatever. Maybe they worked better in an open air environment.
Oh, possibly.
But it was horrible, I thought. I couldn't. Oh, well. I barely couldn't make out any songs, to be honest. It was so loud. It was incredibly loud.
We didn't have that problem outside in the fresh German air.
But speaking of live music, and the reason why this was so special for me was, of course, that there was a long gap with almost no live music. I mean, I was able to catch some concerts in the fall of 2020 and 2021, but of course they were also seated and with masks and with distance and whatnot. So it was also a different feeling. So since you said Delvoid for you is mostly a live band, how did you survive these last 2 years mentally? And how did it influence Swarmlife? Because I mean, the question would also be: Did you start, working on these songs before this shit happened?
Yeah, I mean, most of our material, once it ends up on an album, is pretty old. We're always like what we work on in our rehearsal space now it's always like 1 or 2 albums ahead of what we're actually releasing. So the material's pretty old, but the pandemic absolutely set us back quite a bit. I mean, the 2 singles from Swarmlife, Third Body and Collapsist, they were released last year, around about this time last year, which was way earlier than we were planning. Well, the album came a lot later than we were planning. So, and that was because mostly of COVID related reasons. So it's been tough. Yeah. Not being able to play as well. It's just been really boring.
Yeah. But yeah, so I guess you pushed the release of the album a bit further back, maybe in hopes to have it closer to any possible gigs.
Yep, we'll be having a release concert now on the 20th of May, which should hopefully give people a few weeks to listen to the album and then come to the show. So yeah, we won't be able to do that a year ago. So
that's absolutely right. And so how far have you traveled in the past with Delvoid from your center in Oslo, I would say?
Literally hardly anything. Like, we are a tiny band. Like, no one knows who Delvoid is, what we do. Where I guess we have like the Delvoid machinery of getting out there and putting and sort of promoting ourselves is just the slowest ever. So a new thing with Swarmlife now is that we finally have a record company, which is also a pretty new company, called Bandit Media. And it's just the help we've gotten from them has just been huge, because none of us in the band have a clue what we're doing really when it comes to administration and promotion. And we're all in a way, a bit too shy, I think, to really go out there and just say, you should be listening to this kind of music. Whereas once we have a company at our back, it feels more appropriate sort of to go out there and say that, this is legitimate sounds that you could be listening to. So
yeah, going out there and telling people who have never heard of Delvoid or who have never heard Delvoid's music, there's also, I mean, if people listening now, what kind of idea would you give them of your sound?
Well, it's like a post-rock sound, but set to progressive metal in a way, if that makes any sense. Sometimes I just call it prefix rock, because it goes into like it's post rock, it's progressive rock, it's someone even called it art rock at some time, which is a bit embarrassing, but
whatever rock.
Yeah, in a way.
Like a couple of years ago, I liked the term whatever core.
Yeah, whatever core.
Why there's no whatever rock.
Yeah, right. It's difficult.
What I think is also kind of apparent in the sound is a distinct alternative influence, I would say, which is interesting, because I myself, I'm not the biggest alternative fan, or maybe let's say even grunge or stoner rock fan. But there's
Are you thinking like alternative? That's for you. That's like Radiohead or
alternative rock. I wouldn't.
Okay.
I wouldn't know which band I could.
All right. Okay, that's fair. Yeah.
As an example, now, to be honest.
Yeah.
there's these the funny thing is that there's been a couple of bands lately who have these influences and mix them with like some proggy and psychedelic stuff, like Vulcan from Sweden, for example, or maybe a little bit closer to the Delvoid sound, maybe from Denmark, Franklin Zoo, who are sadly are about to call it quits because they announced some farewell shows later this year, which is really sad because I just discovered them with their newest album.
That's the worst.
That they released last fall.
Yeah.
I think that might be a perfect match. So maybe you should
have to check them out. Yeah,
you could reach out and maybe hop onto one of those farewell gigs. I mean, they're based in Copenhagen, I believe. So it's gonna be a fairly Scandinavian and Northern Europe affair. So maybe
reach out to them. Yeah,
I'm located in Munich in the south of Germany. So I hope I'll be able to go to Denmark or maybe northern Germany to catch one of their last live shows.
That's a chance.
But yeah, it's always interesting to hear about the influences of bands that are not doing your, I would say, average progressive rock or progressive metal sound. We talked about a few bands right now already, and but your vocals in particular, I had a funny association there, but only in like very, very soft and delicate parts, where I had to think of Jim Gray from Caligula's Horse.
All right, yeah. Well, we've had Caligula's Horse been brought up in a few situations. Yeah, they're a great band as well. Absolutely, it's not something like, I think when it comes to the things which has influenced us the most. I mean, it's been such a wide mix for us. There's a Norwegian band you probably heard of called Motorpsycho, which has been a huge inspiration. Just also how the way they do live shows and the way they have a very music focused live shows. Like there's no circus at all. It's just you just get to listen, and they have some lights, right? And that
would be probably one of those bands I mentioned earlier that I have heard of and I'm kind of familiar with through their reputation, but never really listened to.
Motorpsycho is difficult to get into because there's so much, right? And it's so different.
What I heard is that a lot of albums sound really different from each other, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, which has also been a kind of an inspiration for us. Like we also try not to nail ourselves down to any specific genre. We like to kind of, whenever we're in a rehearsal space, we always, like to think that we could play anything and that would be okay. Like no one's gonna stop you if you want to play some sort of cute lullaby type melody over something else. It's like we try to keep things as open as possible. So Motorpsycho has been a great sort of like almost a role model, you could say, for how to approach music in sort of a healthy, open way. Yeah. And
going back to your vocals, is there any particular vocalist you would cite as a big influence?
Well, I think the obvious one for people who know me is going to be Maynard James Keenan from Tool. Obviously, when I was little. I've played in Delvoid since I was 14, I think, 14 or 15. Oh, wow. So for that's half my life now, basically. And ever since I started listening to Tool, it kind of made me realize how seriously you could take music in a way, like how and how you could sing about stuff which is deeply serious and deeply painful in a way which is sort of very honest in a way. So definitely Maynard was a huge influence. And then later I started listening to more like Tomahawk and Mike Patton, and started wanting to do more shall we say, like athletic stuff vocally.
He's definitely an athlete with his,
right, a bit more like
vocal cords.
Yeah, it's absolute. Is absolutely mental, that guy. So him, and I think what's his name from the Mars Volta? Cedric something. Yeah,
Bixler Zavala.
Yeah,
something?
that sounds correct. Yeah.
Another band I'm also only familiar with, I have to admit, and never got into.
No, they've been some big influences, I think.
Yeah, you just touched on another topic I always find very, very curious and very, very interesting to explore, and that's the topics and things you write about lyrically.
Yeah.
And there was also like some hints in the press text. Like I think there was a quote from you. So maybe you can tell us a little bit what people can find on Swarmlife in particular, lyrically.
Yeah, well, it's I think it's kind of a universal modern thing to feel very disconnected, like just generally, like from mostly from each other, I imagine, but also from what we eat and also sort of like from the things around us. Like I have no idea how a computer is built, or like the most of the things around me are pretty alien to me, even though I use them every day. Mm-hmm. So I wanted to sort of start from, okay, we're alienated, we're far out here, and we have no idea sort of where we are or how we feel about our situation. And I wanted to sort of try to, during the album, sort of map a way to some sort of core to that emotion of feeling separated, where that could come from. Because, we spend a lot of time trying to find answers to that in theory and politics and all these sort of self-help books or whatever, and or gurus or whatever. And I wanted to write something which would sort of give a lot of people something they could relate to across a wide spectrum sort of different types of people, and then see if I could sort of focus them into one core emotion, which is this basically a feeling of fellowship, of lacking a feeling of being connected to people. Mm-hmm. And that's kind of where I came from.
Wonderful. Yeah, I can relate to a lot of these things. And on previous albums, like checking out Delv and Serene, Delv was like 70 minutes, Serene was 80 minutes, and now you're down to just under an hour, just under 60 minutes. So would you think that you kind of learned in all these years of the existence of Delvoid to be more precise in your songwriting, or did you go on to when you made Swarmlife that you said, okay, we want to make things a bit more compact?
Well, I think when it comes to the length of the albums, I don't think that quite. It wasn't like very intentionally. It's mostly finding the material which worked together. Mm-hmm. And if adding something only made it worse in a way, or didn't make sense, then we just wouldn't do it, no matter how short. I should say an hour is that's for me, that's a long album still. So we just sort of stopped adding stuff once we found something which we really which we liked. So yeah.
Last week, or actually today, as we record this, our episode of the Progtalks with John Baghold, a songwriter from Pattern Seeking Animals and Spock's Beard, and we actually also talked about album length, and he said, he thinks 51 minutes is enough.
Yeah, it can be. It depends on the genre, I think, though. Still,
yeah, absolutely. And but the funny thing with the new Pattern Seeking Animals album, Only Passing Through, was that they ended up with enough songs to just hit that 51-minute mark, and the two other songs that didn't really fit the album mood, they could use as bonus tracks as they were kind of required from the label, and so they made it onto the album as bonus tracks, but are not part of the official album because they also didn't really fit the mood and the vibe. So yeah, that was funny.
Yeah, it's a big deal. Like our drummer Espen, he's really into like putting songs together and making, kind of defining composing the album from a very like macro perspective. Because I mean, you're asking for someone to give up an hour of their life to to listen to this, right? So it's important that it makes some sort of sense, and that it's something which is somewhat enticing and which makes you want to stick around, and you should feel something by the end of it, right? Other than just, where did my time go?
Yeah. It reminds me of Catatonia, songs that make the hour go. It was so wonderful. That's there's the very last line of the Dead End Kings album. I don't remember which song it is, but they played that song at Prognosis. Another thing that just popped into my mind, because it's been popping up recently a couple of times as well. What do you think about releases or like albums or EPs that is like just one big piece of music, like a 20-minute EP or a 40-minute or 50-minute album? Because we just had an amazing 20-minute EP coming out from Framing Skeletons, the Rightful Heir to Acrolot, that's just out, and my good friend and Progspace buddy Colin is preparing the release of a 40-minute one-song album, and just half an hour ago with his band Ash Breather, I should mention, and finally, just like half an hour ago or so, I saw on Facebook that Mike Mills from Toehider was teasing a 50-minute one-song album from Toehider to be coming out later this year. So what do you think of this kind of approach to composing?
Well, I mean, go for it if you can do that. I wouldn't be against doing that with something like that with Delvoid. I suppose it makes sense to sort of divide themes up in some way. But I also like it when, I should say, like you're never sort of left hanging in a way. Like, so the songs can kind of just move off each other in a natural way. And if it makes sense to release that as just one track, then absolutely, that can be great.
Yes, I'm just looking for a Norwegian album. Where the fuck is it?
What artist is it?
Maybe I have. I have it out here somewhere in like a pile. Green Carnation, Light of Day, Day of Darkness.
Right.
that would be a long song that I do think has its lows where it's kind of, you don't know where it's going, but then it's quick enough to pick up the pace again.
Yeah,
to keep you interesting, to not keep you hanging too long.
Yeah, I think Thick as a Brick did that really well.
I think
that's
a good.
And that kind of thematically moves very, like, it makes sense, the places they go.
This would be a different example. Right. Face Warning, A Pleasant Shade of Grey It's 12 parts, and it's also these parts. They work individually as songs as well, but they also flow in one coherent song.
Yeah.
So that's kind of in between.
What about songs where you get like the part 1 through part 4 or something on one album, and then another album comes, and then you get the rest of the same song, right? If you're Motorcycle have done that.
I have an example for that, not on different albums, but I think that's quite interesting here. Let me check. This is like classic prog metal.
Yeah.
In the Presence of Enemies, part 1 at the beginning,
into that as well,
and part 2 at the end of the album.
Well, it creates like a universe, right, for the listener. Like, oh, we're going back to this thing now, and do we remember that? It's like meeting a character that you've met long ago.
Yeah, I think the songwriting trope also for, like, I would say regular concept albums or prog albums in general to have recurring motives also in different songs. It's I mean, of course it derives from classical music. We have that in symphonies all the time, and these themes and motives popping up in different guises and in different moods and different keys and all that. But I have the feeling that some modern prog fans they kind of despise this as like an old songwriting trope, an old prog songwriting trope. Yeah. But I have to admit, I'm like for In the Presence of Enemies, when the main theme returns, it's just so epic.
Yeah, it's like coming home again, right?
Yeah. There's another really weird example for this. Just looking at the other direction, if I can see it quickly now. This we will put in the album covers manually in the post-production. In the middle, I don't know in which direction it's gonna be, because sometimes the video is switched from on the recording, and also switched like that. Whatever. There's a band. I'm not sure if they're entirely Norwegian. I think only partly. But that was Beyond Twilight, and they had a really crazy concept. With some members of Circus Maximus, like I think Truls Haugen was also singing on that, for example. It was like 40 something minutes, and it was just snippets. Like the album was called For the Love of Art and the Making, and it's just like 20-second, 30-second snippets, and it would make perfect sense. And like the concept behind it was that you would be able to put it on shuffle and it would still make sense.
Oh, okay.
But in all these years, it's been some 15 years or more that this has been released. I never dare to put it on shuffle because it has grown very dear to me in this.
Right.
In the original part 1 to 42 or what.
Yeah, well, that's cool. That's like it's like an interactive sort of improvisation, I guess, for the listener in a way, where you can kind of mix it up and you can put in your own order. I think they did that for Lateralis as well, for Tool, where someone made an alternative track list or track. I was going to say, put in a track ordering, I should say. Which they felt made more sense mathematically or some shit like that. Yeah. That's a lot of fun, I suppose. But in a way, I mean, we spend a lot of time trying to put an album together in the right order. So it's kind of normally. So I suppose it's kind of refreshing if someone wants to make something which is supposed to be able to be heard in any which way, sort of rhizomatic.
So going back to your release show next month, Are you going to play the whole album in its entirety?
No, we won't be. We're trying to. It's such a long time since we've played, so we're going to play some stuff from the older albums as well. And we're gonna play Delve as well, which is like it's like probably the most nostalgic song for me ever. So
how old were you when you composed it?
I would have been 15. So yeah, listening to that, it's or playing it as well is kind of an emotional hell ride. Yeah.
Yeah, I can relate to that with a lot of albums from that time in my life. Actually, one particular Norwegian band comes to mind that is always very, very, very nostalgic to me, and that would be Pagan's Mind with Celestial Entrance.
All right, that's like that brings you back to when you were young.
Yeah, to when I was 15, exactly.
Yeah, well, they say that's when our sort of music taste is formed, right? When we're like in our mid-teens. After that, we only listen to one thing. That's
I couldn't say that for me. I mean, there's so much new stuff coming out, and it's never ending.
That sounds healthy.
Yeah, wonderful. I do hope that you will be able to branch out a bit and play a little further from Oslo.
Yeah, we would love to.
Swarmlife. And just one last thing, I was thinking about the album, about the band name. Is it just like Delve and Void?
That's what it is. It's Delve and it's Void. It's Delve into the Void.
Into the Void.
Yeah, that's the idea there. Again, being 15 years old, we felt like geniuses coming up with that, but we haven't.
No worries. There's a lot worse play on words as band names as far as band names go. Most of them are like some German symphonic power metal bands or Italian. They have like really bad puns that are just like super cringe.
Yeah, so we're supposed to make us associate it to something cool, right? But the name before I joined the band, I mean, it was just three guys with a different bassist. It was Eric and Espen and another guy called Adrian, and it just started like a jam session for those three without vocals, and they were called Passion of Abstract. And we realized pretty early on that was just a little bit too pretentious. So we ended up changing it to Delvoid instead. Yeah, it's just stuck.
Yeah, Passion of Abstract would be very, very much cliche prog metal.
Yeah, that's pushing it.
As you have your at least 3 words post-rock band titles.
Right.
At least 3 words. And not one of them is off or something. If these trees could talk or whatever.
Yeah, something like that, right. Yeah, no, I think I remember we did play with that. Something, I can't remember what we were on. Something about lighthouses and turtles and stuff like that. We were playing, just having half a sentence as a band name, right? Yeah. No.
Yeah, it would not be as fitting for the band and their sound anymore. I would say.
Think
so. For Serene maybe, but not anymore.
Yeah, not for live Delvoid. I don't think it would work. Yeah.
All right. It's been a pleasure talking to you, Alex.
Likewise. So grateful that someone wants to talk about Delvoid with me. So. Yeah, very happy.
Wonderful. Yeah, you guys out there listening right now, thank you so much for tuning in. Don't forget to check out Delvoid on all the socials. We're going to put the links everywhere, and also down below in the description, as well as our own links from the Progspace. And, this cup of coffee or tea is much appreciated, as our likes and subscribes and comments and all that. With that being said, that's it for today. Thanks so much for listening. Take care of yourselves and your loved ones. Keep spreading that prog love and turn off the light and listen.
The Progtalks, produced by the Progspace. Main host, Rune Belsvik Reinås. Produced by Rune Belsvik Reinås, Vanessa and Matthias Kirsch. All graphics and animations by Vanessa Kirsch. Intro theme by Giuseppe Negri. Outro theme by Zach Munovitz. This was the Progtalks by the Progspace. See you in a week.